Welcome to LEARNUS, where we turn powerful books into practical life lessons. In this series, we're diving deep into Brian Tracy's sales classic, The Psychology of Selling. But this isn't just a surface-level summary. We're breaking down each chapter in detail with insights you can apply right away. Whether you're closing your first deal, managing a team, or simply learning how to influence better, this is for you. Think of it as a guided walkthrough, part audiobook, part coaching session, built to unlock the mindset and methods that top salespeople swear by. Let's begin with Chapter 1, where it all starts. Inside your mind. Chapter 1, The Psychology of Selling. Long before a deal is made, before the handshake, the pitch, or even the prospecting, the sale begins in the mind of the salesperson. That's Brian Tracy's message in this opening chapter. And it's a powerful one because it flips the traditional idea of selling on its head. Most people think sales is about strategy, tactics, clever words. But in reality, it starts much deeper with your self-image. Imagine two salespeople walk into a room. One believes they're confident, capable, and valuable to their client. The other walks in second-guessing their worth, unsure if they even deserve the sale. They might say the same words, wear similar clothes, or offer the same product, but their outcomes? Almost always different. Why? Because we don't just sell products, we sell belief. And belief starts with how we see ourselves. Tracy tells the story of how early in his career he struggled. Rejection, low performance, doubt. But then he discovered the power of self-image psychology. He began practicing a simple, game-changing technique, visualizing himself as a high-performing salesperson every single morning without fail. And within months, his income doubled. Why? Because he stopped acting like someone trying to make a sale and started showing up as someone worthy of trust. One of the most powerful concepts in this chapter is the inner mirror, the way we talk to ourselves, often without even realizing it. If you're telling yourself, I'm not good with objections, or I hate closing, that becomes part of your identity. Your brain starts to believe it. But if you change the script, what if you began saying, I'm learning to handle objections like a pro, or closing is how I help people move forward? It sounds small, but Tracy makes the point clear. Your self-talk shapes your self-image, and your self-image defines your results. There's also a surprising insight here about your attitude toward money. Many people carry subconscious guilt or discomfort when it comes to asking for money, especially in sales. Tracy warns, if you believe selling is taking or asking for payment is uncomfortable, that energy bleeds into your conversations. But top salespeople see sales differently. They see it as service. They don't take money, they earn it. By solving problems, by relieving stress, by adding real value. If you reframe selling as helping, then closing becomes an act of generosity, not manipulation. One story in the book tells of a salesperson who transformed their career simply by shifting their identity from seller to advisor. By walking into every meeting thinking, how can I help this person instead of how can I get this deal? The pressure disappeared. And ironically, the sales increased because people don't want to be sold to, they want to be understood. Finally, Tracy emphasizes the importance of emotional control in selling. Selling is a roller coaster. You hear no more than yes. You face rejection, objections, sometimes even rudeness. But the key to success isn't avoiding emotion. It's learning to manage it. The best salespeople stay calm when tension rises. They don't take rejection personally. Instead, they respond with curiosity, asking, what can I learn from this moment? That level of emotional maturity doesn't just help you sell, it helps you grow. So what can you do with this chapter? Start by looking in the mirror, not just the physical one, but the mental one. What do you believe about yourself as a salesperson? What language are you using in your head? Are you lifting yourself up or tearing yourself down? Try this. Each morning before work, say out loud, I am a valuable, confident, and trusted expert. I solve real problems for real people. It may sound cheesy at first, but give it time. You're not just practicing affirmations. You're rebuilding the foundation of how you sell. In summary, Chapter 1 is a powerful reminder that selling doesn't start with scripts, strategies, or closing techniques. It starts with you, how you see yourself, how you talk to yourself, what you believe about the value you bring. Sales is not about forcing. It's about aligning your mindset, your mission, and your message. Get that right, and everything else becomes easier. But give it time. You're not just practicing affirmations. You're rebuilding the foundation of how you sell. Chapter 2, developing a powerful sales personality. If Chapter 1 was about mastering the inner game of selling, Chapter 2 takes that inner mindset and begins to shape the outer reality, your sales personality. Brian Tracy makes a compelling case that the most successful salespeople aren't necessarily the flashiest or the loudest. They are the ones who develop authentic, adaptable personalities that build trust, radiate confidence, and make others feel understood. Personality in sales is not about putting on a mask. It's about growing into the best version of yourself. In this chapter, Tracy shares a truth that many people overlook. Successful salespeople are made, not born. You don't need to be naturally extroverted or charming to succeed in sales. What you need is a personality that inspires trust. And trust begins with how you treat people, your tone, your energy, and the way you make others feel seen and heard. In other words, people buy from people they like, and they like people who listen, respect them, and seem genuinely interested in helping. One of Tracy's early lessons came from watching his top-performing colleagues. They didn't rush the sale. They didn't dominate the conversation. They made space for the client. They asked thoughtful questions, listened closely, and responded with care. Their personalities weren't aggressive, they were magnetic. Tracy realized that personality in sales is something you build through intention, by practicing behaviors and habits that connect rather than push. A big part of developing a powerful sales personality is cultivating optimism. Tracy argues that optimism is a superpower in sales and not the fake, forced kind. True optimism is the belief that no matter what happens, you will figure it out. That belief allows you to bounce back from rejection, to keep showing up even when things aren't going your way. He tells the story of a salesperson who had every reason to quit: rejections, low leads, mounting pressure. But what kept him going was this mindset: every no brings me closer to a yes. Eventually, he did close that yes, and it was his biggest deal of the year. His personality wasn't loud or impressive, it was resilient. Tracy also touches on enthusiasm as a key trait. Not wild, over-the-top energy, but genuine passion. The kind that comes from truly believing in your product and the value it provides. When you speak about something with conviction, your client feels it. They may not remember every word you say, but they will remember your energy. The best salespeople radiate belief, and that belief is contagious. Now let's talk about caring, one of the most underrated qualities in sales. The top professionals genuinely care about their clients. They don't just look at them as targets or numbers. They approach every interaction with the mindset: how can I help this person make the best possible decision for their life or business? That level of care cannot be faked, and it often sets you apart in a world full of transactional sellers. Tracy breaks it down even further. If you want to develop a powerful sales personality, start with your daily habits. Are you showing up on time? Are you constantly improving your knowledge of your product and industry? Are you rehearsing, refining, and learning from every interaction? Confidence in sales doesn't come from hype, it comes from preparation. And preparation builds the kind of quiet, grounded confidence that clients trust. He also introduces the idea of modeling, looking at people who are already successful and adopting some of their traits. Not to copy them, but to observe what works. Watch how they listen, how they ask questions, how they close deals, then adapt those traits to your own personality. One of the best ways to accelerate your growth is to learn from people who are already playing at the level you want to reach. And let's not forget the importance of integrity. Tracy is clear on this point. No matter how persuasive you are, if your personality lacks honesty or ethics, your success will be short-lived. True power in sales comes from alignment. When your actions, words, and values match, clients can feel that alignment, and when they do, they'll not only buy from you, they'll refer others to you. So how do you apply this chapter? Start small. Pick one personality trait you admire: optimism, enthusiasm, integrity, curiosity, and make it your focus for the week. Practice it in every client interaction. Reflect on how it changes the conversation. Over time, you'll build a sales personality that isn't just effective, it's authentically yours. In summary, developing a powerful sales personality isn't about being someone else. It's about becoming more of your best self. It's about showing up prepared, positive, passionate, and principled. When people feel that from you, they don't just buy your product, they buy into you. And in the world of selling, that's where true influence begins. Chapter 3, Why People Buy. If you've ever walked into a store intending to browse but left with a shopping bag in hand, you've experienced the mystery of human behavior in action. Why did you buy? Was it logic, emotion, a bit of both? In Chapter 3 of The Psychology of Selling, Brian Tracy explores a question that lies at the heart of every successful sale. Why do people buy? And the answer might surprise you, because it has far less to do with your product and far more to do with what's happening inside your customer's mind. Tracy opens this chapter by breaking a common myth that customers buy for logical reasons. In reality, most buying decisions are emotional and only later justified with logic. It's a concept that flips the script for many salespeople. You don't win a customer by overwhelming them with facts, features, and data. You win them by understanding their feelings, their fears, desires, and aspirations. To make this point, Tracy shares a simple but powerful truth. Every person is motivated by the desire to gain pleasure or avoid pain. At its core, buying is a deeply emotional act tied to self-image and hope. When someone buys a luxury watch, they're not just checking the time, they're buying status, identity, or confidence. When someone invests in insurance, they're not buying paperwork, they're buying peace of mind. If you can tap into the emotional outcome your product creates, you stop being a seller and start being a solution. Here's where this becomes practical. Tracy introduces the idea of the need behind the need. The customer might say they want a product that's affordable or reliable, but what they truly want could be security, ease, or pride. Your job as a salesperson is to read between the lines, to go beyond the surface and ask questions that reveal the emotional drivers behind the request. For example, if a client says, "I need something quick and simple," don't just pitch a fast service. Ask, is there a particular deadline or pressure you're under right now? That follow-up might uncover urgency, fear, or a personal stressor, which gives you the opportunity to connect deeper and sell smarter. Tracy also introduces a list of universal buying motives, which include desire for gain, fear of loss, comfort and convenience, security and protection, pride and prestige, love and belonging, and personal growth. Let's pause for a second. Think about any product or service you've successfully sold. Chances are you hit one of these core motives without even realizing it. Maybe you framed your offer as a way to save time, comfort, or as a competitive edge, prestige, or as a step toward personal success, growth. When you understand these motives consciously, you gain the power to speak directly to what matters most to your client, their story, not yours. Tracy shares the example of a salesperson who sold security systems. Instead of just listing features, alarms, cameras, alerts, he told stories about families who slept peacefully at night, about parents who felt safe leaving their kids home alone. He didn't sell a box of wires. He sold peace of mind. That shift in messaging made all the difference. And here's where trust enters the equation. Emotional buying doesn't mean manipulating. Quite the opposite. It means you need to build rapport, credibility, and a sincere understanding of your customer. When people feel that you truly care about what they care about, when they feel seen, heard, and understood, they let their guard down. And that's when the real conversation begins. Tracy also encourages salespeople to become emotional detectives, to listen more than they speak, to watch for tone and body language, to ask questions like, what would a perfect solution look like for you? What's most important to you when making this decision? Have you had a bad experience with something like this before? These questions aren't just for show. They reveal the emotional map behind the decision. And once you have that map, your job becomes guiding the customer through it, helping them feel safe, supported, and confident about saying yes. To wrap this chapter, Tracy reminds us that the real power in sales lies in empathy, not persuasion. If you can genuinely place yourself in the customer's shoes, feel what they feel, and speak to that emotion with honesty and clarity, you'll not only make more sales, you'll build relationships that last. So here's your lesson. In your next sales call or client conversation, forget about the pitch. Instead, ask yourself, what does this person really want beneath the surface? What are they afraid of? What are they hoping for? Chapter 4, Creative Selling. Selling is often thought of as a game of repetition, the same pitch, the same objections, the same close. But Brian Tracy challenges that idea in Chapter 4 by introducing a concept that separates average performers from exceptional ones: creative selling. According to Tracy, while discipline and consistency are crucial, it's creativity, the ability to think differently, adapt quickly, and see opportunities where others don't, that truly defines the top sales professionals. The chapter begins with a simple but powerful idea. Every sale is different because every customer is different. You can't approach every prospect with the same script or mindset and expect consistent success. People have unique problems, preferences, fears, and needs. Creative selling means being flexible and observant enough to tailor your approach, not just your message, but your energy and attitude to each person you meet. Tracy tells the story of a young salesperson who was struggling to meet his monthly quota. He was diligent, punctual. He had memorized every product benefit, but nothing seemed to work. One day, instead of following his usual pitch, he tried something different. He asked the client, "Can you tell me about your biggest challenge right now?" The client opened up, and the conversation became a real dialogue. The salesperson didn't just sell that day, he connected, and that connection led to a sale. That moment was the birth of his creative approach, and it changed everything. At the heart of creative selling is problem solving. Top salespeople see themselves not as persuaders, but as consultants. They ask, what is this person trying to solve? And then frame their product or service as the solution. This mindset shift is powerful. It moves you away from pushing and towards serving, and clients feel the difference. When you ask better questions, when you truly listen, when you tailor your offer to fit the client's unique situation, you move from being a seller to a trusted advisor. Another key idea Tracy explores is the importance of mental flexibility. Too many salespeople get stuck in patterns. They get attached to one way of presenting, one way of closing, one way of handling objections. But markets change, buyers change. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. Creative selling is about keeping your mind open, being curious instead of defensive when things don't go your way. Tracy encourages salespeople to constantly look for new angles. For example, instead of focusing on price, you might explore value. Instead of highlighting features, you might emphasize emotional benefits. Instead of selling the product, you sell the transformation it brings. This ability to switch perspectives on the fly, to frame the offer based on what resonates most with the customer, is a hallmark of creative selling. He also talks about the importance of preparation in fueling creativity. Some people think creativity is spontaneous, but in sales, it's often the result of doing your homework. When you understand your customer's industry, their challenges, their competitors, you gain more angles to approach the sale from. You can speak their language. You can anticipate objections, and you can show up not as just another salesperson, but as someone who gets it. That kind of preparedness allows your creativity to flourish because it gives you more tools to work with in the moment. One of the standout stories in this chapter is about a woman who sold office furniture. In a highly competitive market, she realized that just showing catalogs and quoting prices wasn't enough. So she started offering space consultations, helping companies redesign their offices for better flow, productivity, and aesthetics. Suddenly, she wasn't just selling desks and chairs. She was selling better work environments. That creative shift not only increased her sales, it turned her into a sought-after expert in her niche. Another trait Tracy highlights is initiative. Creative salespeople don't wait to be told what to do. They experiment. They try new email headlines, they test different scripts, they explore unfamiliar industries. Not everything works, but they treat every failure as feedback, not as rejection. In a world that's always changing, being proactive and adaptable is no longer optional. It's a competitive edge. And then there's the creative use of stories. Tracy emphasizes that logic makes people think, but emotion makes them act. Facts are forgettable. Stories stick. When you can tell a story about how your product changed someone's life, solved a problem, or created unexpected success, you tap into something much deeper than data. A great story makes the product real. It creates a picture the buyer can step into, and once they see themselves in that story, the sale becomes natural. So, what does this mean for you? Start by challenging your routines. Are you saying the same things the same way to every client? What assumptions are you making about what people want? What questions aren't you asking? Begin to see each interaction as a fresh opportunity to create value, not just transfer information. When you do that, every sales call becomes more engaging, more personal, and more effective. In summary, creative selling is about connection. It's about curiosity, flexibility, and the courage to try something new. It's not about being clever for the sake of it. It's about staying human in a process that can often feel mechanical. If you can keep learning, keep adapting, and keep showing up with an open mind, you'll not only make more sales, you'll enjoy the process a whole lot more. In Chapter 5, we'll take this creativity and bring it to the moment of first contact, how you approach the prospect in a way that earns trust and attention from the very beginning. First impressions matter, and Tracy shows how to master them. Be sure to subscribe to LEARNUS so you don't miss the next step in this journey. Chapter 5, Approaching the Prospect. Every sales journey begins with a crucial moment, the approach. It's that first handshake, the first word, the first smile. Chapter 5 dives deep into this all-important step because Brian Tracy knows the way you approach a prospect can either open doors or shut them tight. In fact, he calls it the make or break moment in sales, when you either create curiosity and trust or trigger resistance and doubt. Tracy starts this chapter by painting a vivid scene. Imagine you're at a networking event, or knocking on a potential client's door, or cold calling someone you've never met. Your heart might race, your palms might sweat, and that's normal. What separates top salespeople from the rest isn't the absence of nerves, it's how they handle those nerves and channel them into positive energy. One of the first lessons Tracy shares is about mindset. He suggests walking into every approach with this belief. You're offering value, not asking for a favor. That simple shift, it's transformative. Instead of feeling like a burden, you feel like a problem solver. You're not just selling, you're helping. And when you believe in your value, it shows. Your tone becomes confident, your smile, genuine, your presence, inviting. Tracy tells the story of a salesperson who used to dread cold calls. He felt like an intruder, but once he started framing those calls as an opportunity to help people discover solutions, his entire approach changed. His calls became conversations, not interruptions, and his success rate skyrocketed. It all began with mindset. Next, Tracy explores the power of first impressions. Research shows people make judgments within seconds, and those judgments, they're often subconscious. Your posture, your eye contact, your handshake, your energy level, they all speak volumes before you say a single word. So prepare yourself mentally and physically. Stand tall, breathe deeply, smile warmly, and remember, you're meeting a person, not a prospect. But here's where it gets really interesting. The opening line. Tracy warns against cliches and generic scripts like, "How are you today?" or "Do you have a minute?" These lines can feel insincere, rehearsed. They cause people to tune out. Instead, be curious, be personal. If you've done your homework, mention something specific. Ask a thoughtful question that invites them to share. "I noticed your company recently expanded. How's that going?" Or, "What's the biggest challenge you're facing with your current supplier?" This approach does two powerful things. First, it shows you've done your research. That builds credibility. Second, it flips the dynamic from a one-way pitch to a two-way conversation. People naturally open up when asked genuine, relevant questions. And once they start talking, you get to listen and tailor your message with precision. Tracy also emphasizes the power of energy matching. Tune into the prospect's mood, their style, and adjust your own to match it. If they're fast-paced and energetic, speed up. If they're calm and methodical, slow down. This subtle mirroring creates subconscious rapport, and people start to feel safe, connected. But what about rejection? Tracy doesn't shy away from the tough truth. Not every approach will succeed. What sets the best salespeople apart is their resilience, their willingness to keep trying. He shares the story of a door-to-door salesman who faced hundreds of no's before finally landing a major client. Each no was a lesson, not a failure. And that perspective, it's everything. The approach isn't about winning every time, it's about consistently showing up and learning. Finally, Tracy gives some practical tips to polish your approach. 1, prepare an engaging introduction that highlights your value. 2, practice your body language and tone. 3, use open-ended questions to spark conversation. 4, be ready to listen more than you talk. 5, smile. And use the prospect's name to make it personal. In essence, approaching the prospect is about making a genuine connection from the very start. It's the foundation on which the entire sale rests. When you approach with confidence, curiosity, and care, you turn strangers into friends and conversations into opportunities. Next up in Chapter 6, we'll explore the entire sales process, the step-by-step journey from initial contact to closing the deal. Understanding this flow will help you navigate every stage with skill and confidence. Chapter 6, the sales process. Every great journey has a map, and in sales, that map is the sales process. In Chapter 6, Brian Tracy lays out a clear, step-by-step guide to navigating the entire path, from the first hello to the final handshake. What's remarkable about this chapter is how Tracy breaks down what can feel like a complex, unpredictable process into manageable, repeatable actions that anyone can master. He starts with a simple truth. Selling isn't about magic. It's not about luck. It's about following a proven sequence of steps, each one designed to build trust, uncover needs, present solutions, and close the sale. When you understand and respect this flow, you gain control over your outcomes. No more hoping for a good result. Now, you're creating one. Tracy outlines 6 essential steps in the sales process. 1, prospecting and qualifying. The process begins before you even meet the client. Prospecting is about finding people who might benefit from what you offer. But not every lead is a good fit. And that's where qualifying comes in. Do they have the need, the authority, and the budget to buy? Tracy shares a story of a salesperson who wasted months chasing uninterested leads until he learned to qualify early and focus on high-potential clients. The lesson? Work smarter, not harder. 2, approach. We've already explored this. That first connection sets the tone. A warm, confident, and prepared approach opens the door to meaningful dialogue. Tracy reminds us people buy from those they trust and like. 3, needs discovery. This step, it's about asking good, thoughtful questions that help you understand the real needs and desires of your prospect. Tracy calls it the diagnosis phase. The better you understand the problem, the better you can tailor the solution. He tells a story of a tech salesperson who doubled his sales, not by pitching more, but by simply asking better questions. 4, presentation. This is where you introduce your product or service. But it's not about features, it's about fit. It's about matching your offer to the exact needs you uncovered earlier. That's when your presentation becomes relevant and irresistible. 5, handling objections. Objections, they're natural, expected. And according to Tracy, they're a good sign because it means your prospect is engaged. He reframes objections as opportunities to clarify, educate, and build confidence. Skilled salespeople listen carefully, empathize, and respond with clarity. And when doubts are addressed, decisions happen. 6, closing the sale. The moment of truth. But Tracy wants to set the record straight. Closing isn't pushy. It's not aggressive. It's the natural conclusion to a well-executed process. When you've built value, addressed concerns, and connected emotionally, asking for the sale is simply inviting the client to take the next step. From the assumptive close, which delivery date works best for you, to the summary close, let's recap what we've covered. Tracy gives you real techniques that feel natural and effective. What ties all these steps together is the mindset he emphasizes: patience, persistence, professionalism. Sales is a process, not a single moment. Sometimes it takes multiple calls, multiple meetings, and the key is to stay focused, respectful, and proactive every step of the way. And let's not forget about the secret weapon, follow-up. It's the edge most salespeople overlook. a simple check-in, a thoughtful note, a phone call a week later. Tracy shares a story of a salesperson who almost lost a major deal, but won it back with a handwritten note. That small act of care, it sealed the deal. So now, reflect on your own process. Are you following these steps deliberately? Are you qualifying leads, asking deep questions, handling objections with grace? The beauty of this process is that it can be learned, it can be practiced, and it can absolutely be mastered. In conclusion, Chapter 6 is your sales roadmap. It takes selling from a mystery to a series of intentional actions. When you master each step, you don't just close more deals, you build lasting relationships and a career you can truly be proud of. And that wraps up the first 6 chapters of The Psychology of Selling. If you'd like me to continue with the next chapters or dive into another powerful book, let me know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, insightful, or just plain valuable, hit that like button, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to LEARNUS for more deep, practical breakdowns that turn books into real-world results. The next chapter is coming soon, and you won't want to miss what's next.